Welcome to the Convince Me podcast, where we are on a mission to convince you to step out of your gaming comfort zone and try something new. With that said, let's get to convincing. This week, we are not going to be convincing each other. We are just going to be having a discussion of a game that Darren and I, specifically Darren, are currently obsessed with. That game being Borderlands 4.
Woo!
So I want to start this episode. For those who are new or just have forgotten or haven't been paying attention, all very possible. Our history of Borderlands is very, very interesting. So I'll go back to the very, very beginning. When
Mm-hmm.
Borderlands 1 came out, I think I remember reading about the first Borderlands in like a Game Informer or something. I remember seeing it and seeing that it was basically it was like the first looter shooter that I had ever been aware of, because every loot drop game before that was a medieval hack and slash, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so Borderlands comes along. I'm interested. I pick it up. I remember I had a family friend over at the time, and I just like begged him to play with me, and we hopped on, and I was having a great time. And then a little bit later, don't ask me how long, I don't remember. Darren comes over to my house and we're having a sleepover, and I'm like, "Yo, I got this new game. Like, it's pretty fun. Let's try it." So we try it, and we put ton of time into it, ton of time into
Probably
the game,
it was probably 10 hours that night.
and so we were just like, this is amazing, and so from that point on, Darren fell in love with the series. Now I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna throw the ball to Darren. Darren, let's talk a little bit about like what does this series mean to you?
All right. So, those who haven't been around for a while, Borderlands 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. It might arguably be my favorite game of all time. It just depends on the day you catch me. Um, and over the course of time, specifically just in life, in different seasons of life, and then the games themselves. Borderlands consistently becomes the game that I come back to as just like it's the comfort game. It's the game that I know I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to get exactly what I want out of it. I'll probably beat it to a bloody broken pulp, and then I'll move on to whatever I'm playing next.
It is your game
To the
between
point where
games most of the
it
time.
is. It is. To the point where I want to say I've probably put over 1,000 hours into just Borderlands 2 across all iterations of it that I played. Um, Borderlands 3 is probably somewhere between 400 and 600 hours across all platforms. Borderlands 1 is probably right about there as well.
So do
And
you
so this,
think? Sorry to interrupt your thought,
no, no,
but
no,
do you
you're good.
think that your connection to Borderlands 2, how much of it do you think, or the Borderlands series, period, how much of it do
Mhm.
you think is the series itself? How much of it do you think is maybe life timing at the times of releases?
I want to say most of it is the series itself. Strictly because if not for the series itself, I wouldn't keep coming back to it. It would have been one of those things where I flash in the pan, played it into the ground, and then never picked it up again.
Sure.
So it's the loop of the series that really appeals to my very specific type of ADHD and borderline, neurospicy behavior, where I love to collect things and I love the idea of making a character as strong as humanly possible. And I will just spend hours and hours grinding to try to farm a specific weapon to drop in the way that I want it to because it makes me feel stronger.
Hmm.
And that is the formula of the game and the series as a whole, as opposed to strictly just the timing of my life. Now, I would say I don't know how well I would have fallen into the franchise if it hadn't come out when it did. Because what did we figure out? Borderlands 1 was like 2010. ish, maybe.
Borderlands 1 was 2009.
It was '09. Okay. So then 3 years later, we get Borderlands 2.
Mm-hmm. BL2 was indeed uh,
Toys 2012 for
20,
sure.
2012. It was like almost to the date,
Yeah.
3 years later.
Yeah. Because I know it was less than like a year after Skyrim, which what a year of my life that was. So I mean the timing of life does help because I mean when you're in college and you're not really going to classes all the time, you don't really care how you spend your downtime. So I had the time to really let it become a large portion of my personality.
Yeah.
But it's the franchise itself that has really kept me coming back in spite of a certain individual who shan't be named really trying hand over fist to run the franchise into the ground. But that's neither here nor there.
Um. So before we continue talking about this game, this series is, like I said, it's a looter shooter, and what that means for those who are completely unversed in video gaming, because I want this to be, anybody listening can understand. It is a game that is a first-person shooter, and the objective, there is a story in every Borderlands, but the
Mm-hmm.
main draw of the series is you get different guns that have different stats, that do more damage, that do different like passive things, that reload faster, shoot faster, whatever, just different things of different guns. I think they decided that the combination of different guns is in the billions. I think then that was for
With
like that.
4 now, yes.
So lots of options, and your objective is to go around. It is completely open world. You do side quests. You you go do missions, and your rewards for missions is money, cosmetics for your vehicle, for your guns, and new guns. There are tiers to your guns, so there is white, green, blue, purple, orange, and orange is legendary. And eventually there will become a tier above that, and every weapon has like different features. So if you find a gun named this, it typically has this ability. So like the objective is the game is to do the story, which we will get into, and to go around shooting bad guys, having them drop ammo and guns, and just getting stronger. There's a skill tree that you can spec into that gives you different passives and active abilities, like kill skill. So when you kill an enemy, this activates. So there is a ton, ton of customization to this game, which is why, Darren, I think you get as addicted to it as you do, is because there's so many different options, and there is no ideal way to play, because when they drop new
Mm-hmm.
passives or new characters, there's a new meta, which means there's a new like strongest thing that you can strive to. And then in this game, they're gonna have like weekly and daily things that give you more incentive to play, and so that ties into your collector uh, aptitude that you have. And so that's the basic gist of Borderlands. Shoot guns, kill people, get better guns to be stronger. That's the gist of the game. So let's talk very basic. Darren, what are your opinions on how the game as a whole feels?
Mm-hmm. Before I say that, I just looked it up. Based on the parts that can roll with RNG and otherwise, there are in fact 30 billion possible gun combinations in Borderlands 4,
That's a lot. That's a
which
lot.
is an extraordinary amount. Now, as far as how it feels, I mean, it feels like, as stupid as this is to say, it feels like a modern first person shooter. I mean, it has pretty much all of the bells and whistles that you'd hope that it would have, as well as a ton of quality of life improvements from every previous Borderlands game that has ever come out. For those who've never played, so you the prior to Borderlands 4, the games took place on different maps, and each map was a pretty decent size, all things considered.
Yeah.
And there'd be different points of interest on each map, um, and each map kind of connected to other pieces of the map to become this overall world, but it was always separated by a loading screen. Borderlands 4 is the first time that they've really created something that is all truly open world. And in order to make that digestible, one of the biggest things that they added was the ability to summon a vehicle whenever you'd like. Now, the vehicles in Borderlands have some of the most
Historically.
intriguing and historically hilarious memories for Ryan and I. Starting all the way back from the beginning when to this day I will not be in a vehicle with Ryan in a game if he's driving because something always goes wrong,
Okay,
to the
so
point where Ryan has gotten the cars stuck on a single pixel of rock and they would never move.
so okay, so the way the cars control is I this is the only game I think I've played where this is how the vehicles control. But the vehicles control, the left stick controls acceleration and braking. The left stick does.
Mm-hmm.
The right stick controls your turning, which is very bizarre. Basically, your vehicle turns whatever way you have the camera facing, and I've never played a game like that. But the issue in the old games is like because of the way the steering works, you don't actually have direct control of your car. Having the camera determine which way the car is turning means that your car is turning passively. So you turn the camera to the right, and yeah, like the car turns right, but you're not directly controlling the car. And so there were a lot of spaces where I would try and be a little gung ho about making it through a space that I probably had no business making it through. And I tried and brute force my way through, and maybe it caused a few cars to explode. I don't see the issue there because we made it through the game just fine.
I distinctly remember one time in particular where in Borderlands, when you lose all of your health, you drop into fight for your life, where you have the opportunity to down an enemy, and then you come back up. But if you don't down that enemy, you die and respawn, and you lose a percentage
I think it's
of your
10%.
money.
I think it's 10% of your money. At least in 4,
I
I think it is.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it might be more than that, to be honest. And so Ryan did what he does as the driver of the vehicle, and invariably resulted in our demise in game. And we respawn, and we've lost money. And the very next weapon vending machine we found had something that I wanted for my character so badly. And because of that death, I now could not afford to purchase that weapon, which now to this day is a reason why, because I repeated this on loop for probably 2 or 3 hours. Um, I'm so depressed.
Yeah, you said that for a
I
very
said that
long time.
so many times because of a certain somebody. I could not purchase the weapon I needed, which would have done great things and helped us keep getting through the game. But instead, I was so depressed because Ryan and his antics uh, cost us enough money to completely derail all things.
But the craziest part is that Borderlands was where it started, but that skill
Oh,
that I have to get
oh,
stuck in literally nothing. You can ask Roth. We played Ghost Recon. There are times where I will get stuck on actual nothing. Like you'll get out the car, you'll crouch down, look under the car, and the car's just there. There's no rock. There's nothing. The car's just there. But anyway, that's a bit of our history with Borderlands. So I agree. I think the game it feels like a modern first person shooter, which is
Hmm.
the the average person would be like duh, but like when you compare it to previous Borderlands, like it is the game as a whole is a step up in pretty much every regard from
Hmm.
Borderlands 3, which is a very very good thing, obviously.
Hmm.
I think the how it feels to shoot, aiming down your sights, the feedback on the controller, like it feels fun to play, and in a game where shooting is the game, you need it to feel good, and I think they
Hmm.
succeeded excellently. So, as someone who has the thousands of hours or whatever, can you tell people, Darren, like what what makes this Borderland feel so much better than the others to you?
So other than the traversal mechanics, which are definitely worth noting, because I mean they gave you like a proper double jump and a glide pack and the ability to climb certain types of structures and a
Yeah.
grappling hook and a mantle and like the things, the movement mechanics that you'd really hope that there'd be. I, it's just an overall smooth experience without a ton of visual pollution. And what that means is when there's too much happening on screen at one time, because the weapons in Borderlands are very fantastical in the way that they behave, the types of projectiles that they fire, lots of explosions, bright flashy colors, things like that. In Borderlands 3, the visual pollution was so extreme that you could not see a lot of the things that were actually happening on the screen at any given time. In Borderlands 2 and the other ones that came out around that time, so like the pre-sequel, the remake of Borderlands 1, there could be so much visual pollution on the screen at one time that it would actually cause a complete crash in the game. And I have not personally experienced any types of crashing as of yet. Now I do know that there are people who have, but
Specifically
I,
on
I
PC, I
personally,
think.
yes, PC specifically, but I have not personally had any types of issues with crashing or anything of the like.
I haven't either.
So that in and of itself, I mean, the fact that I've been playing a Borderlands game that hasn't crashed is crazy. It shouldn't be crazy, but unfortunately, it is. But it just feels good. Movement feels fluid. The animations feel good. There's no like choppy nonsense that really serves to diminish the fact that this game does, I think, run at a solid somewhere between 60 and 120, depending on your system specs. I mean, I play on an Xbox Series X, so mine probably stays pretty hard capped around 60. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've never felt like I needed more than that from a Borderlands game.
Yeah, I put it on, and I also play on performance. I don't play on. I never
Hmm.
play on visual fidelity. Uh,
Like the graphics mode.
yeah, I why am I blanking
Yeah.
on what that mode is called? Performance versus.
Quality?
I don't know. You guys know what I mean. Um, but yeah, there's something that is like a certain je ne sais quoi about like when a shooter feels bad. It's hard to quantify. Like I'm sure somebody with the technical know-how could. I'm not,
Hmm.
but there's a certain something about that makes a game feel bad, and you just know it when you play it. And this
Hmm.
game, it hasn't had that for me, and that's important. Now,
Hmm.
have I run into some bugs? Yeah, I've run
Oh,
into
absolutely.
a couple. Nothing game breaking, just nothing a simple reset didn't fix. And yeah, I think it feels good, and that's important in a game that you're going to be
Hmm.
playing for a very long time. Speaking of playing for a very long time, the map of the world is
Oh man,
big.
it's big.
It
It's
is
large.
large.
And
And
more than that, there's stuff to do in it,
so yeah, let's
which
go ahead there and
is a
talk about
lot.
some of the like what has made this world feel full to you so far.
So, first and foremost is the fact that enemies can spawn in pretty much every corner of the world. That alone is enough to make it feel like something.
Yeah.
Um, but they've created a bunch of different enough feeling points of interest that feel either as optional or mandatory as you want them to feel, that really gives you a sense of agency over the world. Um, Typically, the points of interest are, collectibles, which you can find, which, builds world lore or whatever, gives you trophies if you're looking for that. There are some that give you points that go into a bank, and those points are what you use to increase ammo capacities or carrying capacities or things like that. So once you've achieved as much of the capacity for those weapon types as you want, really you never have to do them again if you don't want to. And then there's others that are little dungeons that you can explore with bosses at the end that you can farm for good weapons or shields or things of the like. And they're really simple, easily digestible, quick things that you can go in,
Mm-hmm.
beat it, do what you want, and then you can get back to them and farm those bosses infinitely. So I mean, it's a world with a lot of stuff in it that are really up to you to decide, is it something you really want to do, or do you just feel like going through the story and then maybe coming back to it later, or do you feel like you're somebody who just wants to play through the story to see what it's all about and then not care about any of the end game stuff, because that's super within your right to play through this game as well. So I think they've made a game that is very large, that is exactly as much of an undertaking as you want to put into it.
And the openness of everything is, I view it as a good thing. So the
Hmm.
way it works is you have a story based opening where you have to go through some things, do some story, do some missions. But once you reach the end of this like opening mission, the rest of the world is completely opened up, and there are like three main hubs that open up to you, and you can do any of them in any order you want.
Hmm.
And like Darren got to level 50, which is the max level or level cap,
For the
and
moment.
by the time you got to 50, you'd only done one of the three like sections.
Yep.
So that is how much there is to do. Granted, Darren does a lot of farming. He likes to look for the perfect ideal weapon. I don't play that way. If I were to farm, I would do it after I've reached max level, so that way whatever I farm for is like the best it can be. But yeah, you spend a lot of time exploring the world, and it's been through repeating bosses, which you can do now. Before, you used to have to reset and then go back to a spot and then fight the boss again. Borderlands, Gearbox knows that their audience wants to do that, so they built it into this game, which is a
Hmm.
very, very nice quality of life thing. So basically, what happens, you beat a boss, you just go back to a certain spot, excuse me, and then you just pay like money, and then you can just fight the boss again. And like, that's it.
Hmm. Which is, it's wonderful, and it's not even that you have to go back to the spot. There's literally a thing where there ends up being a red chest, which usually has a higher percentage of higher quality loot. And then there's a little point that you can grapple into, and it will teleport you to right before the boss room where there is the machine that lets you farm the boss. So they've made it as easy as possible to farm these, as opposed to how it used to be, where, just like Ryan said, you used to have to save and quit and then reload the game, beat the enemy again, and repeat the process until it dropped how you wanted. And that was the biggest issue when you would want to do multiplayer, because every time you saved and quit, it would kick everybody out of your multiplayer lobby. And
Mm.
so then they'd have to rejoin until such a time that they got, or you got what you wanted, or they got what they wanted, and then everybody could join back in and do it all over again. So they've really made a much friendlier experience for a lot of the things that people have been asking for.
And which is super nice. I So that's like the general gist of how the game feels. The world feels active. There's so many points that you can go to, and just doing things. There's so many collectibles to find, and golly day, the amount of different collectibles that there are to find. I mean, off the top of my head, there's like vo- uh, logs, like voice logs, text
Mm.
logs, vault symbols that you can find, um, a reading guide, or what's that collectible called, the guide to Kairos or
The Vault
whatever.
Hunter's Guide to Kairos, yeah.
Vault Hunter's Guide to Kairos. There's like off the top of my head, I can think of like 5 or 6 different collectibles that are just like types of collectibles that are scattered
Hmm.
throughout the entire world, and you are welcome to go find them or not. There's the only reward you, I don't know if there's, I guess there you might get like iridium and cash reward for finding different amounts of them, I guess.
I don't know. I've kind of opted out of finding those, to be honest.
That's fair. But yeah, that's the world. As far as classes go, this game has a class system in place that lets that every class has their own thing. And the interesting thing about this, and Darren, again, you're gonna have to talk to this, is that every class in this game kind of takes the history of Borderlands and squeezes old Vault Hunters, which the characters that you play as are called Vault Hunters because they hunt for the vault, for different vaults. They've taken past Vault Hunters and like squeezed them, like different traits of different Vault Hunters, into these Vault Hunters.
Hmm.
I am going with Vex, who is a siren, which like sirens are very important to the lore of Borderlands. And my focus is an element is elemental. She focuses on basically astral connections, summoning creatures, and elemental connection.
Hmm.
And I have built her to basically have a pet that follows her around, that is whatever element of weapon I have. My companion is also that thing, and he fights alongside me, and I build my skill tree that I mentioned earlier to focus on making him stronger and making him help me more. And there are the skill trees in this game are gigantic. They
Hmm.
are big, and um, am I wrong in saying that I feel like what one of these skill trees encompasses pretty much the entirety of skill trees in the older games?
Um, I wouldn't say quite. Maybe in Borderlands 1, but Borderlands 2, you'd have three skill trees. Each skill tree had two columns, probably 5 or 6 rows each. Whereas these skill trees have three each, and then there's one big one that each spawns into the middle one, and then three little sides. So I would say each skill tree per Vault Hunter is probably about 1.5 of the three skill trees that previous iterations have had. It's definitely the most skill options
Yeah,
we've
and
ever had, but I won't say that one is the size of all of them, because
fair,
that's just
fair.
not quite true.
And Derek, can you talk about like what are some standout things? Who are you playing as? What's their focus? And like what are some things that
Mm,
have stood out to you about your character? I'm gonna go blow my nose. I'll be right back.
have fun. So I have been playing as a character named Harlow, who is the sibling of a boss that you would fight different iterations of from Borderlands 3. Her whole thing is that she is what's called a gravatar, so she has the ability to create little pockets of reversed gravity to grab enemies and make them float there, making them vulnerable to attacks. But the action skill that I've chosen for her is she sets off this little pocket of nuclear fission that goes out and sends out radiation darts to hit people, and then sets out a pretty big explosion. And after that explosion happens, a certain percentage of the damage that she does gets stored in her guns. So then her guns do just absolutely ludicrous damage per projectile that gets fired. So it's pretty much the more enemies you hit with her action skill, the more damage she'll end up doing in that short bit of time afterwards. But it works really well on bossing. I There are very few bosses who last particularly long with the way that I've built my character as of the moment, and that feels good. That is exactly how I like to play these games.
Damage is always fun. So they're the options with all these different Vault Hunters are crazy. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
very good thing because it means your replayability is off the charts. All it takes to try a different skill tree, because like you said, each Vault Hunter has three. All it takes to try a different build or skill tree is just paying some money, which you get an abundance of as you play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's also different in this one is things as of now are much more affordable than they have been in the past. So
The other thing I'll say is I think they did a pretty good job of this in 3, but I don't know if they did as good of a job in 3 as they have in 4. Each of the characters has builds that are so viable that you won't regret not playing somebody else. In previous Borderlands games, there's been like an obvious best character with one build that is just better than every other character's every build. This time, especially because they just released a patch with a bunch of buffs for one of the characters in particular, and now I've seen some gameplay videos since that buff patch, and he does just absolutely insane, stupid damage. So I mean, I they've really done a lot to work on the balancing of the game between characters, so that you can just kind of pick whichever one you like and make them insane over time.
that's exactly what you look for. Now, as far as music goes, I did want to talk about that because music is very important to us. In
Mm-hmm.
your history with the series, would you say that music has ever been something that you focused on while playing these games?
I can honestly say no. That being said, I have tried to focus on it more for the sake of knowing that we would probably talk about it. Um, and I've noticed some instances, but still, as a whole, I mean, I the music hasn't had a big effect on me for the course of the game. It's predominantly atmospheric
Yeah,
for me, which of course there's nothing wrong with. There's not every game needs to have a Clair Obscur esque soundtrack to it, though I wish they would. But for a game where there's so much additional noise that goes into it from the weapons themselves, just having it not be quiet is good enough for me.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think it fits the mood of the planet that you're on.
Mm,
I know that in previous Borderlands games, like specifically one and I think also two, there was a heavy emphasis on like a plucky banjo, almost feeling like you were almost southern in a way. Um,
mm,
in certain regards to those games, I know definitely one had a very like
mm-hmm.
western south vibe to it. Um,
More, yeah, yeah, like Wild West, but
yeah,
the Great Plains, a lot of nothingness.
yeah. And this one, it's very. How would you describe the aesthetic of the planet Kairos that we are on?
I mean, there's three pretty diverse biomes, and now currently a fourth diverse biome that I just got to today. Um, I don't really know if we're dealing with the entirety of the planet or if we're just in one little pocket area of it. But I mean, they've got a lush green, plains, coastal, foresty area. They've got your snowy mountain canyon area, and then they have your kind of sandy mesas and whatnot, gross area that's just getting torn apart by sandstorms all the time. And now I'm in a
Do-do-do-do.
giant city.
Nice. I have not gotten
Yeah.
there.
No.
And you talk about these biomes being open in the way that they are. As far as story, which I want to get to in just a second, do you feel like the openness of the world has impacted the story for you? Because I feel like for me, there has to be there's something about a game with a lot of story in an open world. Open
Hmm.
worlds automatically are gonna have a tricky time with story because it's like, oh, how do you have a world-ending threat? Like, oh my gosh, this thing's gonna happen in like 2 days, and meanwhile your character goes off and is friggin' playing poker or learning this new card game while the world is ending. Like, do you feel like the story has lent itself to the openness of the world?
I do. And I feel that way because each of the three main areas that you deal with all kind of have their own problems that are brought about by what your objective is. And so, because each of the three areas feels so distinct and almost separate from each other, we haven't really run into an issue where I feel like I'm doing a quest I shouldn't be doing because of like what the stakes are. Because
Sure.
really, you're just trying to free the planet from the control of the timekeeper ultimately.
Yep.
But that has such a nebulous timeline to it. There's no immediate threat to the world as a whole. In each one of the three regions, there's a faction that you work with, and you're trying to help them liberate the area. So you're gaining, bonuses with those factions. Um, but because each faction is separate from the others, you don't really ever feel like I should be doing this, but I'm going to go do this instead.
So you're saying that everything that we've been doing, because and I think I
Hmm.
agree with this, has felt like it's going like it's impacting the people in the area, the people in that section.
Yes. Yes.
You feel like you're impacting the world. You're not just like pissing about, doing whatever. Like you're impacting the people positively in that area or negatively, depending.
Correct.
Um, yeah, and I agree. I have been enjoying the quest structures so far. It something that I noticed is there every every side quest by default is going to feel like a fetch quest. Like that could, it's a side
Mm.
quest. You go here, do this thing. Go here, do this thing. Whatever. I feel like the side quests here haven't felt that way. They felt meaty. They felt chunky.
Hmm.
They felt like you were getting to know people. There was a true story to a lot of them. And then you have a quest where um, I had to help fire a rocket into space with a guy on it, or fire a rocket up with a guy in it. Like you have all manner of different things. Some quests take a few minutes, some takes a few
Hmm.
seconds, some take like 20 minutes. It feels like so there is a lot of differentiation between the kind of side quests you do
Hmm.
that I've seen.
And with each of them, I mean, really, you can skip every side quest if you felt so inclined. There's definitely some I wouldn't recommend skipping, but you can skip all of them.
Yeah,
It's the side quests are where Borderlands inserts a lot of its personality. But I think, and probably for the first time, the story itself can carry this game far enough that you don't necessarily need the side quests to make it feel like a full game. Whereas I might argue that some of the other iterations of Borderlands have really needed those side quests in order to make it feel like enough.
That's fair. I mean, I think I think it's a pretty much consensus that Borderlands 2 has the best villain in the series.
Yeah.
Handsome
Yeah.
Jack, best villain in the series, hands down. And this game, but the characters that you meet in the story, the villains that are in it, are still compelling enough to be able
Mhm.
to carry the story, to want to hunt them down, seek them. And the tone of this story is, I think, you're the one who would know more than me here, but I think this story has the most serious tone out of the entire series so far.
Mhm. There's no question about that. Borderlands historically is known for trying to be funny as well as be the kind of game that it is. And I will argue that because Borderlands 4 has taken a bit of a more serious tone, I think the humor lands better
Sure.
in the moments that there are. Um, as well as some of their Easter eggs and calls to like other medium that is just that's always been all over Borderlands. I mean, you could basically fight SpongeBob in Borderlands 3 in one of the DLCs. You know, it's there's some great callbacks to other things in this game as well. But I mean, as a whole, for the story, one of the area villains even just got more interesting for the segment of the game that I just played through before we got on and started recording this, and I'm pretty excited for Ryan to play it so that we can have that conversation because it's that whole stretch of game. Honestly, I did not expect to feel how it did, to make me feel how it did, to reintroduce somebody that you thought you defeated the way that it did. It was pretty good. Borderlands honestly took a huge step with this one in terms of its overall story. Huge step.
I mean, yeah, no, I agree. I think, is there anything that you feel is not necessarily lacking, but something that you would have liked to see um, changed or done differently? Or do you think that this nails it pretty much on the head?
I would say as a whole, it's pretty well nailed. That being said, we will see how they handle DLC releases because that is ultimately, I think, where they could disappoint a lot of their player base. A lot of their post launch content has been contentious over the previous iterations, and that's honestly I could potentially turn that into a whole podcast episode on its own. Um, so the post launch stuff, I'll be interested to see how they handle it. So far, they've done a great job insofar as they have prioritized buffs and balances over nerfs, and I think that is a huge step in the right direction. Because when Borderlands 3 came out, the first two or three main updates that they did were nerfing guns and builds, but there was still portions of the game that would crash so hard it was unplayable. So I mean, their priorities seem to be in the right place this time. The only thing that I potentially nitpick is in the game there are these things called class mods that apply to your character and your character only to basically give you a subclass of your class to buff certain aspects of your character, give you additional skill points in certain things, etc. This game's drop rates for legendary items is much, much, much lower than what it was in Borderlands 3. And if you go and farm for a class mod for your character, the enemies that you have to farm for them can drop a class mod for any of the four Vault Hunters. And so what has now been happening is I've tried farming for an on level class mod for my character on multiple occasions now that I've hit the level cap. And I have gotten multiple iterations of every other character's class mod to drop except mine. So if there could be a way that they could make it more likely that the class mod for your character could drop, that would be great. I could not even begin to conceptualize how they do that. but that would be wonderful if it could, because it is hours and hours of farming to not get a single one to drop for your character, and that does suck quite a bit.
Sure. I we play Borderlands in very different ways. Like you're more of the community where it's like, oh, go here to farm this, get this weapon, get this mod for this build and XYZ, and I'm playing just to like experience it and just like what I find, I find. If I find something I like, I'm gonna equip it and use it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting hearing you say that because like I didn't know any of that. I'm just going through and just fighting what I fight, finding what I find, and
Yeah,
it's
and to
just
be
interesting.
fair, the reason I do that is going to make one of our lovely viewers just so happy. And it is because I play Borderlands with the explicit intention of being able to defeat all content solo. So I go and play and build the way that I do because I want to be able to beat all of the end game contents and raids and whatnot by myself.
you act this you didn't actually, but like what you said just made my ADHD brain shoot through 30 different things that brought me to another idea
Mm-hmm.
of something else that stood out to me in this game that stands out to me as far as control and traversal goes
Mm-hmm.
is you just have a straight up dodge in this one,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very interesting addition to a first person shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can dodge on the ground or in midair, and it uses part of your like jetpack bar that determines how often you can glide or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is that has changed the game, and I'm interested to see how that impacts different boss fights or certain things like that. Because now, because you have dodge, enemies can like telegraph certain things, or they
Mm-hmm.
can make un like hard hitting attacks that you just have to have the reflexes for.
And they do. And I could tell you about them, but I'll let you experience them organically because I know that's what you want anyway.
Yeah, I'll find it. Um, I'm trying to think. Is there any other aspects of the game that are different that you think are better that the game is better for having? Um, I mean, I think the style that this game has for the Vault Hunters is really nice. I immediately found like a colorway for Vex.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Vault Hunter's name. I immediately found a colorway that I would be hard pressed to find something better than. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll see.
Um, I will say the thing I appreciate the most as of yet, in previous Borderlands games, there has been a lot of emphasis on the previous game's characters. And so there become, this recurring cast of characters, but they end up being the main emphasis of the story in one way or another. And I think that Borderlands 4 has done a tremendous job at letting new characters just be. And the old characters that they've brought back, for the majority of the game at this point, I've put over 70 hours into this first playthrough. Um,
I have not.
I find that only just now in the final stretch of the game are the older characters becoming more relevant. And I think that's just fine because it's been new character after new character the whole way through. And it's really giving Borderlands 4 a chance to stand on its own 2 feet instead of just being another Borderlands game.
Sure. I mean, I don't know that there's I'm sure there's tons to say, but like I'm 30. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I think I'm like 30, 35, something like that hours in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, yeah, it's been fun. I find myself wanting to play more than I did with 3. Like 3, I've beaten every main Borderlands game. 1, 2, pre-sequel, and 3. I've beaten them all. I think 2 is the one I've beaten and played through the most. Um, pre-sequel I played through once and then never touched again. I didn't beat Tiny Tina's. I don't consider that a mainline Borderlands game though.
It's
Um,
not.
and yeah, this one is the one where I'm like, oh snap, this is super fun. If I were to have not know what to play in between games, like I can find myself coming back to here, trying new characters, because the other thing that's new that is a very nice quality of life is once you finish the game, in other Borderlands, you finish the game and then you can set a new Vault Hunter and then you have to start from the beginning with that Vault Hunter. In this one, once you beat the game, they have it so that when you start with a new character, they start at level 30, which is 5 levels over halfway to level cap. So you can have guns saved and give your characters a leg up because you have a bank where you can save weapons that any character can access. So you can put weapons in a bank so that your new character can come in and have a leg up and have some good weapons to start with. And so that cuts out a lot of grinding that you would have to do otherwise. No, am I wrong? What am I wrong about? What am I wrong about?
Um, I suspect this is something that will change, so I haven't really brought it up. As of now, your bank is not account wide.
No. Are you serious?
I am indeed.
Why?
I don't know.
Because I'm now correct me if I'm wrong here. That every other Borderlands, the bank was anybody on your account.
Except for one. That is correct. Now, remember in Borderlands 2, the bank only had 3 or 4 spots. Like, period.
Did it really? Huh.
Yeah, because it was Claptrap Secret Stash, is what it was. That was your bank. The or rather, that was what you had to use to switch items between characters. The bank was your own thing, and it was just unique to the Vault Hunter. But you needed Claptrap Secret Stash to switch between
Oh yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
characters on your account.
Yep.
Borderlands 3 had it fully across the account, where it was everybody, and that also meant that the increases to the capacity for your bank were consistent across your account. In this one, your bank is not, as of right now, account wide.
Dang.
I don't know if that's something they plan on changing, and I know people have complained or asked for that to be different, especially because, and I was talking to Ryan about this, but they have released a new thing in this game where legendaries can basically, for anybody who's played Pokemon, they can basically roll a shiny version with a unique color palette on them. Same gun, just more rare. And then you have that color palette that if you get other versions of that gun to drop, they can also have that color palette. There is a challenge in the game to find the shiny version of every single legendary.
Oh.
And nobody as of yet has been able to do that because the game just hasn't been out long enough for that to be possible. And so that challenge has yet to remain incomplete, and nobody knows what you get for it. And so the reason why people are making a push to have a bank be account wide is because that would mean that you have to find, I think, I want to say they might be called the effervescent version of the weapon. I can't remember. But the shiny version of the gun, you have to find every shiny on every character to get whatever that reward is for every character. And that people don't love because you only get the trophy once, but the challenge would be across every character.
Oof. Yeah. No, I'll pass. Um,
Yeah, same.
that is not for me.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, I'm having a grand time. But basically, you finish the game. Every character that you start with, you can start at level 30. Super nice, super useful. Saves a lot of time. But apparently, you have to find the weapons on your own. Which, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But with that said, I think do you have anything else to add? Anything else you want to talk about? I think we're enjoying it. Obviously, we're not done with it. He is infinitely closer to being done than I am, which makes me
Mm-hmm.
sad because I really, really want to be finished. I'm not going to. but I really was hoping to try and be close to done by the time Pokemon comes out in a couple weeks. I'm not gonna be, but it happens. Whatever. I'll get it when I get it. And
Yeah. I mean, no,
yeah,
there's not much else to say. It's Borderlands is a great game. Borderlands 4 specifically is a great game. It's a well done iteration of a franchise that I personally hold in very high esteem. I'd encourage anybody who enjoys first person shooters and a good story to give this one a try. If it's your first ever Borderlands, it's a great one to jump in on. Um, and what I will say is this is the third specific game episode that we have done. And this game is definitely not in first place out of those three games, but it's definitely not in last place either.
don't you dare badmouth Avowed. How dare you?
I would never. It's just presently in third place out of three.
And we actually have a plan to do Pokemon, a Pokemon Legends episode. So, if you're into Pokemon, keep an eye out for that. That will be another episode where Darren will have the encyclopedic knowledge needed. And if we do a Pokemon episode, which I do want to do, it will be one for the ages. It is a shocking amount of information that he has on Pokemon.
Maybe if we have the ability to, we depending on the disparity and how far apart our characters are, maybe we can even do a an online battle for an episode.
Well,
See, you're making faces, but the battle system is very different in ZA.
yeah, but
It
you
is
also
not what you expect.
We'll see. We'll see. I know nothing. I'm going into ZA pretty much like 99% blind. But
And
before
I have everything memorized.
we get there though, we're gonna do a regular episode next week. We will be I will be trying to finish Celeste.
We should be able to.
Wish me luck. And the episode after that, the next podcast episode, I will be trying to convince Darren to look into Indica, which I don't know a ton about. I just know it seems interesting. Darren, what are you going to be playing?
I will be playing Sonic Frontiers, which will be the first 3D Sonic game that I have played since...
Sonic Adventure 2, it's got to be.
No, it was Sonic Heroes. I played Sonic Heroes.
Oh, okay.
Although Sonic Heroes was still very stage-driven. Although Sonic Adventure 2 was too. Sonic Adventure 1 was open. And I think, as I understand it, it's more of an open-world Sonic game. So
I think that is perfect for Sonic. Sonic is absolutely perfect for an open-world game.
I think so. What'll be interesting to see is if there incorporates any ways of... Obviously, there's not just Sonic, right? So, to be able to maybe... Well, I guess that's what they tried to do with Sonic Boom, huh?
Sonic Boom.
Oh.
Sonic Boom.
Oh. I'd like to see opportunities for the other characters to matter, but oh man, Sonic Boom exists.
Yeah, it do.
Never mind. Oh dear.
We'll get there.
Never mind.
We'll talk about it. But with that said, thank you for listening. Appreciate you all being here. Hope you like the new look of the podcast. I'm trying to make it more, but I think that is it for us. And
Just trying to make it more.
I want to make it more. But with that said, Darren, help me out.
Are you convinced yet?
I'm so good.